This is Nikki from the design team, and today we're going to be looking at a Pinkfresh Studio set. It makes this beautiful wreath, and I want to show you some unique things about these rainbow daisies that really make card making quicker. First, the stamp is all one piece, so the wreath and the flowers are all connected together so that you can stamp that one time and get tons of flowers. So we are going to use the stencil set with it as well. The stencils are 6 stencils, and they do kind of the same thing. They make lots of different color and they're all connected together. The other great thing is that you can die cut them. The die is one piece. I'm going to show that to you so that you can quickly cut out all these flowers and the wreath at the same time, which to me really saves time because I like to have lots of extra parts to my cards. So you'll see the sentiments are not connected, but all of the flower pieces are connected on one die. You do not cut this apart. It's all one piece to make it easier for you. If you haven't done it yet, make sure you hit this like button and subscribe so that you get more fun product intros and just lots of card making tutorials here on the ScrapbookPal channel. I am going to do rainbows. Since this is called Rainbow Daisy, I'm going to use a set of Catherine Pooler inks to create a really beautiful more pastel rainbow, and all of these colors will be linked in the description, but I wanted to give you an idea of what we're using. Catherine Pooler has mini ink pads and they have full-size ink pads, and I have a mixture of both, so you will see them both during this video. The other nice thing that Pinkfresh does is they label their stencils. So the front of the stencil has a little raised area and it says stencil number 1, so you know where to start. We're going to start with the green. I'm using a waffle flower media mat with my paper, and I'm going to line this stencil up. I'm going to tape it down just because it's a long stencil. It's about a slimline size, so I'm going to tape it down just to be safe. You could use some pixie spray, whatever you want to do to keep your stencil from moving would work, but I'm just going to use some tape, and we're going to start with the green. I'm going to speed up my stenciling areas, but I'm going to talk to you about the colors. So this is matcha, and I'm using a large brush just to do the base of this greenery, and then we're going to come in with the next color in this color family, which is called sage. It's the darker of them, and I'm going to show you a new tool to me that ScrapbookPal carries, and it really makes a cool difference on your stencils, and it's called the Waffle Flower Shader Brush 2, and so it's a flat brush, and I'm adding darker colors to my stencil with it, just kind of at the bottom, just to give them a little bit more detail, so there's a little depth to each of these, and you'll see what I mean when I remove this stencil. Okay, you see what that does? It just gives it a little bit of difference, and for these greenery areas, there's not a second layer stencil for them, so it just gives it that little bit of depth, which is really nice. With the flowers, they have 2 layers of stencils each, so I'm only going to use this technique on the greenery. Now for stencil 2, this is where we're going to start our color. So what I did is kind of look at my wreath and decide how many flowers there were on there. And I did this a little bit before, so I know that I've got my rainbow flowers and about where they're going, but I'm just laying colors out to make sure I've got this under control, because you don't, there's different colors in each of the stencil pairs. It just does parts of them. So I'm going to start with pink and orange, and the first bottom layer of pink is called Pink Champagne. And when I'm going in color order on the wreath, but the extra flowers, I'm just doing a combination. So the bottom layer of the orange is called Orange Peel, and I'm going to do the same thing. Figure out my actual wreath, then do some of the random flowers. And here's how that layer is looking. So you can see we've still got more parts of the wreath. When I put on the next stencil, you can see that we also have a stencil that does the darker part of those pink flowers, darker part of orange, but it has some open areas beside it. So you do have to pay attention to your colors. It also means I'm going to have to do some masking with either Post-it notes or washi tape. I'm going in with my yellow color. It's that next flower, and it starts with whipped honey. And then I'm going back and filling in the rest of the orange flower that's on the top of the wreath. So you see that flower continues, but you've got a couple of layers so that it's got some depth to it. So I'm going to finish that orange flower, and then now I need to use some washi tape to cover up areas so that I can make sure that I get my darker centers of the flowers taken care of. Just grab some washi tape and I cover up the other parts of flowers, and then I'm gonna have to take this washi tape off and cover up for my pink flowers. So one of them is just straightforward, and I'm using rouge right here as my second layer on the pink, and I'm gonna try to just do that without covering it. You know, if you get a little bleed over into the other color, it's not that big of a deal. So rouge for pink. The second layer of the orange is mandarin spice. So the stencil gets a little bit more complicated. Right now I'm going in with my base yellow color, so I'm continuing that yellow flower that I started with the previous stencil, and this is the base color called Whipped Honey. Then I'm going to use this. This looks green, but it's actually lemongrass. It's a really dark yellow, so I'm doing my centers of yellow flowers where that's available on this stencil, and like I said, this stencil has a lot going on. This light color of purple is called lilac, so I'm adding that, and you see it's only a singular flower right up here. I'm going to put a pointer on it. That's because this wreath is a mirror image, so I'm going to, not really a mirror image, but it's going to have 4 different colors on it. So I'm going to restart my color with the pink flower and going back around with the rest of the stencils. I'm going to finish up with the stencils and show you what these look like cut out, and we'll make the rest of our card. So once you have this done, look at how this die fits perfectly. It is so amazing. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to use a little tape once I get it exactly where I want and run it through the die cutting machine. Look at all these beautiful pieces. They're so pretty, and so I decide that I'm going to create some dimension to this wreath by putting the flowers behind it, but I want the wreath to have a little bit more definition. So I'm going to go in and stamp with some dark gray over the top, and I'm using a sticky mat with that die cut, and then I'm lining up my stamp on top of it. I used the new gray ink from Catherine Pooler called Hoodie, and it just gives it a little extra detail. So I'm going to also stamp my sentiment. I usually pre-die cut and then use a piece of tape and put my sentiment back in there so I can line it up, and we're going to do You're a Wonderful Friend. To give the center wreath more height, I cut out a couple of just scrap pieces of paper and cut the wreath out. I'm going to glue these 2 together and then glue the wreath on top, so the wreath will be 3 sheets of cardstock thick, which just gives it some dimension and just some strength right there in the middle. So I told you that I was going to put flowers behind the wreath, but we're definitely going to need to do a little bit of trimming. I like to set my wreath up first and then kind of look at what things, where they are, and then go back and trim them. So you can see there's going to need to be some trimming, and I did go ahead and trim these, but as I put them down on the paper, I also leave my little wreath here so that I can make sure I don't have parts of them sticking through the wreath. If you prefer the look of seeing the flowers on both sides, that's fine as well, but I just slowly go around and layer them around this wreath in places that I feel like need color, and just trim when I feel like it's a little too long. I just cut a little edge off and put it back in. And once I've got all these flowers in place, I'm going to glue my wreath on top, and then we can add in our sentiment. So here's how that looks glued together. I decided I wanted to add a little bit of bling to this, so I did add some backing of the black, and then I added some jewels to it just to give it a little extra excitement. All right, here it is up close, and of course all of these things will be listed in the description as far as products that I used. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the ScrapbookPal channel for lots more fun tutorials. Have a great day. Bye.